right above is Neptune's moon Triton, its biggest moon that's orbiting around the furthest planet from the sun. It's really cool to see Neptune when it's like this. You can actually, and it's like right next to a star too, which is pretty neat as well. What's really cool about Neptune is when it gets close to us, because right now it's getting close to opposition, which is our closest approach between Neptune and Earth. We're able to see those that moon Triton a lot easier. And so if you go on missions of Triton for, a few days, or go on a mission like every other day for a little bit of time, you'll actually notice that Triton will orbit around Neptune. And so you can build a time-lapse animation actually watching Triton orbiting around, which would be a pretty cool cool thing to do. And it's actually an idea for a quest that I was thinking about writing in the future potentially. So anyways, we are at 4 o'clock Pacific time, which is 7 o'clock Eastern time, and at 2300 UTC. Greetings and welcome to Slooh Using Slooh in Education September 2023 edition. I will be your host, Director of Curriculum, Dr. John Boisvert, and today I will introduce you to Slooh and our standards-aligned learning activities that we have here at Slooh called quests. Now, we have a wide range of audience here today, both in the webinar and tuning in through our event pages, all from the K through 12 community colleges, universities, families. You'll find that Slooh works for everyone. And so, but because this webinar is using Slooh in education, I am going to focus more on students and educators. So I do have a brief agenda that I would like to show everybody today. First, we're going to learn a little bit about Quest learning progressions and which standard education curricula they address. Next, I'll show you how you and your students control Slooh's online telescopes by going on missions. Then we'll cover what you'll find in Quest and how students learn using Slooh. I also want to show you how to access the teacher resources and what they contain. They're going to be really important for lesson planning. Then I want to show you how you can assign quests to your students and monitor their progress on your Slooh workspace. I also want to show you some of the all new custom poster tools by using the Milky Way Doppelganger quest and the In the Footsteps of Apollo quest. And in fact, I'm going to have a little bit of time where I'm going to focus on the In the Footsteps of Apollo quest towards the end of today's webinar and show you some tools that you can use to efficiently do that quest in the classroom. So if you're brand new to Slooh, I'm sure you're wondering what a quest is. So quests are coherent, well-sequenced experiential learning activities that use Slooh's telescopes to capture images of celestial wonders while learning about specific aspects of astronomy, history, anthropology, arts, and other STEAM topics, keeping students engaged and excited to learn. We have over 60 interactive lessons that challenge your students to use Slooh to collect data and analyze it and form their own conclusions. Now, Slooh has 10 online telescopes that broadcast live from our flagship observatory in the Institute of Astrophysics of the Canary Islands and our Chile Observatory in association with the Catholic University of Chile. Coming pretty soon, we are going to be launching our Australian Observatory, which is going to add another telescope to the network. We're also planning on adding another telescope to the Canary Islands network too, bringing the number of telescopes up to a dozen. What's really important about having telescopes spanning the world as Slooh does is it allows us to unlock all of the celestial wonders in the night sky. By having telescopes in the northern and southern hemisphere, we can see things in either direction. By having telescopes spanning all around the globe, that means that we will have 24/7 all sky coverage of the night sky once the Australian Observatory comes online. That means that any time that you'd like to jump on and look into space with Slooh, you are going to be able to. And this is really important because students, especially in K through 12, and even in colleges these days, they're cut off from the night sky and the rest of the universe due to many factors. The overabundance of light pollution in our cities, difficulty with setting up telescopes. Everybody's eyes are a little bit differently. Slooh's state-of-the-art telescopes in our Quest curriculum are an equitable way to bring the universe back to the students so that they can engage with space and gain cosmic perspective. Now, Slooh currently has 5 learning progressions of quests. We've had teachers in the past say that they don't have the time or expertise to know which quest to assign their students. Let us help out with that. At Slooh, we have learning progressions depending on what class you're teaching. These learning progressions are compact and aligned to the standard curricula. With these progressions, educators can look at their syllabus on what they're told to teach, and then use these progressions to say, okay, those are the quests that I want to assign. So these are for the ease of use for the non-astronomy teachers that use Slooh. Before Slooh, only science educators with the passion for astronomy could bring space into the classroom. Now, any educator can do it. Now, let me show you where you can find those learning progressions on the Slooh platform. So first, we're going to find ourselves on the Slooh dashboard. This is where you'll find yourself immediately after logging in. Now, when you along the top, there are these buttons that take you to the main areas of Slooh, and there is a button for quests. And when you click on quests, at first, you're going to see all of the 60-some quests that we have available for you to assign to your students, but you can also check out where the learning progressions are by utilizing this filter. See how right now it says all categories. If I click on that, I can see there's elementary school, middle school science, high school physics, high school astronomy, college astronomy. When I click on any one of these, like elementary school, for example, this is going to show the quests that were on the quest map that I showed in just a moment ago. And these quests show up in the recommended order that we suggest going through these quests. Now, in these maps that I have here for these different learning progressions, they're going to be in the teacher resources pretty soon. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be adding these. So you'll be able to see how the students go from quest to quest, following their recommended sequence, which is the sequence that you'll find it on the Slooh site. But you'll notice that there is little avenues where you can kind of go from one quest maybe to a different quest and have a slightly different path through, depending on how much time you have for using Slooh in the classroom. So I mentioned that these quests address certain curriculum codes, and I want to show you a couple of places where you can find that tonight, actually a few places. Now, when you're looking through any of the quests, there are these 3 dots. These 3 dots here allow you to view quest description. When you click on this view quest description, you'll see a screen pop up like this that gives you some information about the quest, how many gravity points students earn, the images captured, objectives for the quest. But there's another, and lesson information, which includes vocabulary, some of the objects captured. But there is a portion for standards addressed. And this is where you're going to find the NGSS performance expectations, science and engineering practices, cross-cutting concepts, disciplinary core ideas, and our Common Core ELA alignments as well. So this is all of the standards that are aligned for this one particular quest. But what if you want to kind of look at all of the standards that all of the quests are aligned with? I'll show you a couple of places tonight how to find that. Now, the easiest place, well, one place where you can find it, whichever way I show you to get to this spot, you find easiest is the easiest. So there really is no easy way. They're all ways to get there. So under the For Educators menu, it says elementary school, middle school, high school astronomy, high school physics, college astronomy. These are our 5 learning progressions. It doesn't matter which one of these you click. I'll click on high school astronomy this time. If I scroll down a little bit, you're going to see a button that says See Curricular Alignment. This curriculum alignment button is going to bring you to Slooh's Airtables. And an Airtable is like a spreadsheet that contains all of the information about all of Slooh's quests. And so right now, this is put in alphabetical order, but we can actually change the ordering that the information is displayed on the Airtable. So for example, in grade level, if I sort from first to last, it'll sort all of the elementary school quests at the top, and then you'll see middle school quests. And then and then high school quests. And you'll start to see that some of the high school quests are also appropriate for college levels as well. Now, scrolling it through the various columns that are on the Airtable, we can see, okay, here's the NGSS, science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, performance expectations. And here's our Common Core state standard alignments as well. What's really awesome about Slooh quests is the reading alignments for Common Core are aligning to reading science and technology for middle school and up. For our kids that are in elementary schools, their Common Cores are aligning to reading informational texts. And this is a little different than a normal class would go through. Typically, when you're hitting these ELA reading standards, they're associated with literature like Shakespeare or various other plays or other historical pieces. Here, they're actually getting a slightly different flavor for their reading alignments, which is really awesome. Now, one thing that's really neat about these Airtables is you can actually pivot them and check which quests we have that align to a particular NGSS performance expectation, for example. So maybe you want to run a lesson that hits the high school PS 1-8 performance expectation. Well, it looks like we have 5 quests that hit that, so you have some options. So by using these Airtables, it's a really fun way to kind of go through and look at how these quests can support your education. Now, one thing too that I want to mention is that we've also started aligning our quests to the Texas administrative codes. And so for TEKS physics and TEKS astronomy, which are high school and middle school related things, we have alignments for those. And then for our elementary school quests, we have some elementary school and middle school standards sciences that are aligned to those as well. So you'll be able to find those in the Airtable as well. Now, when your students finish a Slooh quest, they culminate in creating a poster-sized infographic that showcases the images that students captured themselves within a quest. This is an example of one from the Lunar Phases quest. So these lunar images are images that the students themselves captured and put on this poster. Now, because these students are capturing all of the lunar phases, of course, this quest took an entire month to do because that's how long it takes the moon to go through its monthly cycle. But what's really cool about this is that when students are capturing their own images, they don't necessarily have to capture the same exact image that their neighbor does. And even if they do choose an image of the same object, it could be at a different time, which is going to be a slightly different weather conditions outside. So the images that students capture are going to be unique to each other, but similar to and appropriate for the quest that's at hand. What's even more cool is that these infographic posters incorporate responses to questions that students are asked within the quest. So in this example, students are learning about how stars like the sun born and go through its entire life cycle. And here, the questions that students answer within the quest, there are spots on the posters for those answers to appear. And I'll show you how that works in a little bit. So these personalized infographics generate a spirit of accomplishment for the student while providing an easy tool to recall the content they learn while on the quest. So as I mentioned, they use their own captured images, but students can also edit these posters as well and redesign all of the elements that they see here. They can redesign things such as the text color, text font. They can change the text itself. They can rearrange how the boxes are. So they can truly make something that explores their artistic expression and speaks to them and for them. Now, we also have quests that utilize time-lapse animations and out of their captures, such as the Our Rotating Star quest, which students use to witness the rotation of the sun throughout a week, or captures images of Pluto and animates them and discovers Pluto in the same way that Clyde Tombaugh did back in 1930. If you can't see it, it's where this box is here. There's a little dot moving around. That's actually Pluto moving with respect to the background stars. Your students make this within the quest. So with Slooh's quest, and we keep thinking of more and more ways to incorporate them like into quests. Like if you were around right at the beginning of the webinar, I was talking about Neptune and about how there'd be a really cool quest that I'll write in the future that involves capturing Neptune and actually animating Neptune to watch its largest moon, Triton, orbiting around it. So not only are students capturing the universe with themselves, they're also watching it come alive. So quests are a great way for students of all levels to stay involved on the platform, as they give students structure and provide goals for learning and capturing images for their collection. Now, this is the quest overview page. When you're on this quest page looking through them all and you click on the one that you want to go into, this quest overview page also has the objectives, the standards, and the lesson information as well. So with these quests, students are following in the footsteps of professional astronomers from learning about their captured objects in Slooh's telescopes and learning how to plan and execute authentic observational astronomy missions by considering various factors that can affect their outcomes, such as weather, object altitude, and moon's location. So what I want to do now is go through a quick tour of the Slooh dashboard. And this is the student's front seat to their exploration of space. Now, right up at the top is information about star parties. Now, star parties are shows that are put on the platform surrounding exciting astronomical events such as comets, eclipses, or asteroid passings. And as you can see, there's actually numerous star parties that are scheduled. So we have the webinar that you're in, the star party you're in right now using Slooh in Education. But there's going to be a PD webinar coming up on the September 27th about how to teach annular and solar eclipses in the classroom. Because on October 14th, there's going to be an eclipse, a ring of fire annular eclipse, which is going to be a lot of fun for students to attend and learn all about the eclipse. And of course, we're leading up to the big April 8th, 2024 Great American Eclipse, which is going to be a total solar eclipse. So these are fun. Now, underneath this section is information about each observatory. Now, there is a button here that allows you to go to directly any of the telescopes, but the easiest way to get to the telescopes is scrolling all the way up to the top of the page and clicking on the button that says telescopes. This little green dot here tells you that at least one of the telescopes is online. So when you click on that, you can actually see which one of the telescopes are online. Looks like Canary 1 through 4 are available right now, which is awesome. Now, underneath this is where we find missions. Missions are how you and your students control Slooh's online telescope arsenal. Now, we'll come back to this in a moment. Now, under this section is a quest section. And so under this My Quests, you and your students will find the quests that you are currently working on, meaning that you've started and haven't yet completed. But what's more is, as educators, you have the ability to assign quests to your students. When you do that, those quests will appear in the My Quest category, so that your students will know exactly what assignments they need to complete that particular week or day, etc. Now, underneath the quest is photos, and this is a collection of all of the captured images that you or your students have captured. You can scroll through them. They are by chronological order, which is pretty neat. You can also click View All Photos to see all of your images. And what's neat about this is you have the ability to search through and actually look for a particular image. So maybe you want to look for your full moon images. You can search for full moon and boom, here's all of my 176 full moon photos are right in here chronologically. So it's pretty cool the way that you can search through all of your photos now and find the perfect ones for your purposes. Now, underneath the photos is observations. Now, observations are captured images where a student has added their perspective onto an image, what makes the moment unique, or adds some really cool information, and they post those to the Slooh site. Now, others can go on and we can look at these observations. If we find some that we think are really cool, like this one's really cool, and go ahead and like this one. And when you like these observations, once they reach a certain threshold, I believe it's 10 likes, it gets promoted to the featured observations tab, where it can accumulate even more likes. Other students and educators can comment on these as well. Now, as educators, you do have the ability to turn this this feature on and off for your students if you don't want them to post observations outside of your particular class. Okay, so let's go back now up to missions, because missions, like I said, are how you and your students control one of the 10 telescopes that are a part of Slooh's arsenal. Now, a Slooh mission has 3 important parameters to it. A Slooh mission is a fixed time to look at a particular object with a specific telescope. And you can see here that there's 3 missions that are featured that, that you'll find on the platform every single day. So the Andromeda galaxy is in a very opportune position in the sky right now, so it's one of the objects that we put on here. The Orion Nebula is a beautiful object to see in Slooh's telescope. So here it is here. Trifid Nebula is another good one. So if we look at each of these, we can see those 3 parameters. It's a fixed time, September 20th at 2350 UTC, to look at a particular object, the Andromeda galaxy, with a specific telescope, Canary 3. So when I hit join this mission and then join again, when this time rolls around, the telescopes are going to move to this object, going to snap an image for the collection, and I'll be able to find it in the photo section. So, but what if there's an object that that you want to capture that's not one of these? How can you do that? Well, let me show you. So there is the schedule mission button here. When you click on schedule mission, it'll bring you to this page. This is scheduling a mission through the Slooh 1000, which is the 1000 most spectacular objects in the night sky. So when we can have different categories that we can choose from. So let's choose a mission nebulae. Why not? So now you can see it said calculating proper time and for the telescopes. And what's happening is it's looking at all of the emission nebulae that are on Slooh's database and figuring out which telescopes each of them can see in the next week. And so here's a list that we were given of the emission nebulae that we can potentially capture. Any emission nebula that has a dark font is something that we can schedule a mission for. But you'll see that there are some objects that are grayed out, and these are objects that are too close to the sun right now, and we can't actually get to them. So let's choose maybe the Tarantula Nebula. This is a beautiful object that the James Webb Space Telescope took an image of, and you can learn all about the JWST and the Tarantula Nebula and capture it in a quest by going on the Slooh to JWST quest. So, okay, so when I hit preview, it's going to give me a preview of the mission card. So again, a mission is a fixed time to look at a particular object with a specific telescope. Cool. So I'm going to schedule a mission. So like I said, when this time rolls around, the telescope is going to move to the Tarantula Nebula and snap an image, and it's going to give it to my personal collection when it completes. Now, what that means, though, is that students don't necessarily have to be on the platform when their mission occurs, though they are encouraged to log back in and watch their image as it's automatically processed in real time, like this animation here. All of the images start off black and white, and as more and more light or photons are collected, we're able to colorize the images in a way similar to how Hubble and JWST does it, resulting in these beautiful images. So students, like I said, they don't have to be on to capture these images, to get an image in their personal collection, but they are encouraged to tune into the live telescope feeds, and they can utilize this camera icon here and actually snap images for their personal collection this way. This is a very awesome way where You can have students go through what we like to call the celestial jukebox and see what it is we're looking at throughout all the telescopes and just snap beautiful images all night long or until their bedtimes, of course. Now, this is kind of the quick and easy way of scheduling a mission using the Slooh 1000. But what if you wanted to schedule a mission to a particular object? You know that you want to take an image of the Flame Nebula, for example. Well, how would you do that? Well, let me show you. Up here on the upper right, there is a magnifying glass. This allows you to search through Slooh's guides. Now, we have guides for lots of different things. We have guides for all of the telescopes. We have guides for famous astronomers, for constellations, but every single object that's on Slooh's database also has a guide. So let me search up the Flame Nebula. So I search up Flame Nebula, hit find, and you can see that it found a guide. When you click on the arrow, this will bring you to the Flame Nebula's guide. Now, scrolling down, there is some cool information about this particular object, but that's not why I'm bringing you to this page, not for this information. Instead, I'm showing you this because there is a mission tab on the guide. When you click on the missions tab, this is how you can schedule a mission where you have a little bit more flexibility than you did before. Already, you can see that we can choose a particular day to schedule a mission. Now, right now, it's September 20th at 23:26 UTC. We have less than an hour left in September 20th. So let's go ahead and look at tomorrow and see how tomorrow is doing. And when you scroll down, you're going to see information from the Canary Islands Observatory first. So here we can see, okay, we have some missions that we can potentially go on for the Flame Nebula. And already you can see that we have a little more information than we did before. We have a weather forecast, which lets us know there's some light clouds. We have object altitude, which tells us how many degrees above the horizon the object is. Now, the spoiler alert, you want this object altitude to be the largest value it can be. And that would allow the light from these celestial objects to go through a lesser amount of atmosphere. The more atmosphere the light goes through, the better chance that your image is going to be of a lower quality than it would be if you waited for a mission with a higher object altitude. Now, another consideration is the moon. The moon is an incredibly bright object in the sky, and that affects the quality of some of the images. So we give information about where the moon is as well. So it'd be great to go on these images when the moon is below the horizon. Now, if you continue scrolling, you'll get information from Slooh's Chile Observatory as well. Now here, we can see that we have a slightly different situation. In Chile, the weather forecast is clear. And if I only had, one mission to go on and I wanted to have the best chances of getting a good image, then I'm going to actually take an image from the Chile Observatory instead of the Canary Islands Observatory. So I'm going to schedule a mission, and boom, I'm going to snap an image of, go on a mission to the Flame Nebula and get some images once the time rolls around. Now there is one more thing that I'd like to show you about missions before we dive deeper into quests, and that's about our Canary 5 solar telescope. We do have a solar telescope that during the day watches the sun and sees the beautiful prominences and filaments that appear flinging out of the sun and falling back down onto the surface. But we don't have a way to schedule a mission to the Canary 5 telescope. So let me show you how you would capture images to complete quests using the solar telescope. And so when the telescope is online, students can go to the live telescope page and then click on this camera icon button. This is the same button that I mentioned earlier, where you have the celestial jukebox and just go through Slooh's telescopes and capture images all night long. This is the mechanism that you use to capture images of the sun. Okay. All right, so let's talk more about quests, because quests are a significant part of our gamification of space exploration here at Slooh. When students complete these quests, they earn a heap of gravity points. And gravity points are Slooh's equivalent of experience points. Now, Slooh students earn gravity points, and they use them to progress through the 9 levels of Slooh that we have that honor the famous observational astronomers worldwide from the classical era to the modern day. The first level is Ptolemy, who believed that the sun orbited around the Earth. And it ends with Hubble, who proved that the universe is expanding. Now, I'm currently at the Herschel's level, and you can even see that right on my dashboard here. I am at the Herschel's level. So these gravity points are a way to get students excited about going on quests and doing things on the platform, because not only going on and completing quests or gravity points, but doing practically everything on the site does too, liking other images, posting images, responding to observations, etc. So what I want to show you first, though, is our space exploration quest. This is a new quest that came out recently. It's a part of our all new elementary school learning progression. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there's a lot of information on the quest overview page, which includes the standards aligned for this particular quest. Now, quests, they are a series of steps, and each step has multiple panels. At the beginning of every step, there's a reminder of what the quest goals are in our curricular quests. There's quest step objectives as well. And there's also astrolingo vocabulary terms that students will learn in this particular step. What's more is we've edited the Lexile levels of all of our quests to differentiate the text to make sure that students can access the material throughout elementary through college level. I mentioned that every step has a set of vocabulary terms that students will learn. They are indicated at the beginning of each step and are defined clearly at the step's end. Now, students are assessed on their understanding of these terms through various questions that they find within the quest. Now, I've jumped over to a different quest called the, let me jump on over to a different quest called the Milky Way's Doppelganger quest. In this quest, students capture images of various galaxies, and they learn to look at the various features that they see within the galaxy to determine which one looks the closest like the Milky Way galaxy, the one that we are in now. We have a quick question coming in. Students will not be able to book advanced missions. So even though students won't have the ability to book advanced missions are actually being able to like dial in a particular right ascension and declination, which is the coordinate system of the sky, to look at a particular spot of the sky. But students will still be able to go on to missions in two particular objects in the same way that I showed you. And what I want to show you actually right now is how students would schedule missions within the quest itself. So because in this particular quest, students have to capture images, and they basically bring the image to the quest and determine whether or not it's a Milky Way galaxy or not, a Milky Way type galaxy. So in this particular step, there's 8 potential galaxies that a student can capture. They don't have to capture every single one of them. They only need to capture one of these. But because galaxies aren't all visible continuously year-round, we have to curate a list of galaxies to where no matter when a student works on this quest, there will be a galaxy for them to capture. And that's why we've included these visibility information here. So right now we are in late September. We actually may be on the cutoff for the Whirlpool Galaxy. I actually usually use the Whirlpool Galaxy as my example here. So let's see. So let's say a student wants to test and see whether or not they can go capture an image of the Whirlpool Galaxy. All of these galaxies are links. So when they click on Whirlpool, boom, it brings them to the missions tab of the Whirlpool Galaxy's guide page. This is why I showed you how to access these guide pages early on, because this is the main mechanism that your students will use to capture images for their quests. So as I mentioned earlier, we have less than 30 minutes and left in September 20th. So let's go ahead and click on September 21st. I scroll down a little bit. All right, it looks like we actually could capture the Whirlpool Galaxy. It is visible in the Canary Islands. Now, the Whirlpool Galaxy is so far north in the sky that it actually is never visible from the Chile Observatory, which is actually something interesting to think about. That if you're in the northern hemisphere right now, stars like Polaris, the North Star, are in the sky even during the day. Kind of cool to think about. So let me go ahead and schedule this mission to the Whirlpool Galaxy. And then let me show you what it would look like when your students have their image of the Whirlpool Galaxy from a successful mission. How would they put this into the quest? And let me show you. So here, this is where they would put in their capture. Now, the first capture in this quest was an elliptical galaxy, but I wanted to do a spiral galaxy with us. So that's why we're here. So I'm going to hit Find Image. And what this does is this is going to search through all of the students' images that match the 8 galaxies that are identified for this quest. Now, my favorite Whirlpool Galaxy image, I think it's on, is it on page 3? It's on page 4. I was looking at a crossing of a, asteroid right near a galaxy, a M100, which is why this is like this. Here it is. This is my favorite one. So I'm gonna put in Whirlpool Galaxy, and boom, you can see that that image is here. This image actually wasn't in this spot down here. And so when your students put in their images in the quest, their images, their data populates throughout the quest, and the students are using their images to answer the questions in the quest and learn about the topics that the quest is about. Now, this question is asking them to name their capture, and this is for their poster later on. They'll be able to access this text and put it on their poster. So I'm going to submit that. So anytime that we have a quest where students are capturing images outside of the solar system, there's going to be tables like this to assist them to capture the particular objects that they need anytime year-round. So as I mentioned when I got to the beginning of this step, that we assess students' learning through vocabulary words, but there's also other ways that we assess student learning and check for their understanding throughout quests. And I want to show you some of those flavors now. So a Slooh quest assesses student learning in various ways. We have multiple choice questions. We have fill-in-the-blank questions. We have paragraph fill-in-the-blank questions, which you can think of are like the old ad libs, for example. And we also have free response questions. So students are actually analyzing their captured images and explaining the phenomenon in paragraph form as they progress through the quest self-guided activities. Students learn how to obtain, evaluate, and communicate information that they're learning. When they're going on these quests, if it's a non-free response question, the output is clear whether or not the students answered correctly or incorrectly. And these inquiries support the learning of the material. Other flavors of assessment that we have are actually mathematics walkthroughs that ensure students understand reasoning behind certain equations and why they're working with particular units. This example is the How Far quest, where students learn how to convert the distances from kilometers to other units based on the celestial object that they're looking at in a particular domain of space via whether it be solar system, Milky Way, or deep space. We recently launched an all-new calculator module that will assist students with doing these math problems within the quest. And I just want to show you, it's actually pretty neat. So students need to figure out how many Earths it is between the Earth and the sun. And so they can actually copy the sun's distance in kilometers and paste it right into the calculator. They do need to get rid of the commas in order for it to work. And then they can copy the Earth's diameter and paste that into the calculator as well, getting rid of the commas, hitting equal, and they can calculate their results. So there's this many Earths between the Earth and the sun. And what's even cooler is they can grab this result, copy it, and actually paste it into the answer so that they can get it right. So it says how they need to format their answer. It needs to be X Earth diameters. So we just need to put Earth diameters at the end. We could submit our answer, and boom, we've gotten it correct. So this is definitely going to help out some of the arithmetic that kind of bogs down students sometimes. And we also include fail comfortably free response questions that encourage students to use their reasoning skills to explain certain phenomena before learning about the topic and updating their responses afterwards. So this is a video that students see in the Stars Like Ours quest, where students learn all about how the sun, students watch the sun expanding and turning red, and they're asked to explain what's going on here. Now, it's a pretty good chance that students don't have a good handle on how the sun is going to turn into a red giant star, but after they're done with the quest, they're going to see this video again, and they're going to be asked to fully explain what's going on here. And we also have scaffolding questions that keep students on a track to build upon their understanding. This is from our Universe of Colors quest, where students are learning about the different colors of visible light in the universe, but is also a way to teach students on why the moon's location in the sky affects their captures from the telescopes. So after learning about how the sun's glow prevents us from seeing into the sky, we can then bring them to how the moon's glow prevents us from seeing all of the stars in the sky, and how when the moon isn't in the sky, we can see a lot more stars in a lot more detail. And they'll then put their learning to practice by scheduling a mission to a beautiful planetary nebula. Now, while on quest, students learn how to develop, create, and use models while planning and carrying out authentic scientific investigations. Now, another way to assess learning is by reviewing a student's final infographic. So this is one from the Milky Way's Doppelganger quest that we talked about earlier. And I want to show you what it looks like when you edit a poster from a quest. And so I mentioned that every element on these posters are editable. And I truly meant that. You can change the colors, you can change the font styles, you can change the font itself if you'd like. You can change the font sizes. You can even do things like change the background color too, if you like. If you want all of your students to print out their final infographic posters, and you can instruct your students to make a poster with a light background so it's not going to use as much ink in the printer. Now, students can add things to the poster as well. Now, already a keen astronomer in the audience may have noticed that there is a galaxy under the spiral galaxy that's not correct. This galaxy is actually a barred spiral galaxy. And so the images from the students' telescope images don't automatically populate exactly where they need to be on these posters. Students actually have to put the correct images in these spots in the posters. So when they first get into the poster, there isn't going to be any telescope images there. They would need to add them by clicking on Image, click on Quest Image, and they'll see all of their telescope images here. This one that says Your Quest Second Capture, this is the one that we just put in together. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you can see that it plops the telescope capture right into the middle of the poster. So I can bring it over to this box here. I can resize it a little bit. Now here's where some even more differentiation occurs between these posters. In principle, you could be done here. This looks good, but we can actually take this a step further. By clicking on this pencil icon, we can edit the image that we selected for the poster. Now, I suggest always cropping an image and hitting this 1 by 1. This is going to ensure that the image remains a square. And if it's not a square, it's going to make sure that your crop is going to be a square. And so here we can actually now we can crop our images. We can center our Whirlpool galaxy. You can click on this button here to bring it up. What's more is there is an adjust button. With this adjust button, you can adjust things like the contrast and the gamma and use it to pull out more detail from your Slooh image. So that's pretty neat. When you hit done, you can see that it puts the new image, the new edited image there for them. Now, under Spiral Galaxy, it says galaxy name. We need to put Whirlpool Galaxy here. There's a couple of, in this particular poster, there's a couple things you can do. You can actually just edit this itself and just put in Whirlpool Galaxy. But if you remember, we typed in Whirlpool Galaxy as an answer to one of the questions in the quest. So when you hit on text, you can see that, oh, here it is, Whirlpool Galaxy. So when you click on that, it will put the text box in the actual poster itself. Okay, and then again, students can adjust the font, the style, how big it is, whatever it is they want to do, and use that as their label if that's what they'd like. So these are many different ways that that student assessment can be done on Slooh. And studies have shown that when educators implement coherent and well-sequenced inquiry-based investigations, that students attain a deep understanding of scientific principles. And we can see that in the students that go on these quests. Now, as educators, when you're on these quest overview pages, you're going to see a button that says teacher resources. This is really important. When you click on this, it's going to download a PDF, a quest guidelines. And so this is an example of a quest guideline. As you can see here for this particular quest, the quest map that I showed early on with the learning progressions shows up right here in the quest guidelines. In the coming weeks, all quest guidelines will have their respective maps in them. But these are not supposed to be consumed in full, but used rather as a guide for the quest. It includes an example poster of what your students are going to create. It includes some quest quiz and feedback links. It also includes pause spots for yes, I got that one. It includes pause spots where if you want to break up the quest amongst multiple days, you can go ahead and do that. And it includes quest tips for success, which runs down what you can be expected to do within the quest, gives you some tips for various things that you may run into. There's vocabulary word definitions, but what's really probably the most valuable thing is there's an answer key to the quiz and the questions that are within the quest as well. Even the free response questions have given you an example of what your students should be answering for those particular questions. I don't know how it's already 47 minutes after the hour, so I need to quickly show you some more things. So I'm sure you're wondering how quests have been utilized in the classroom in the past, and there's really no wrong way to do them. I think that integrating quests as homework assignments or as in-class assignments are a really good strategy. If you're in colleges teaching laboratory assignments, some of the longer quests would be good enough for doing for the entire lab period for example, the Apollo astronauts quest. But what's really neat is we have professional development we have webinars that go through some different ways that quests have been utilized in the classroom in the past. And I want to show you where you get to those. So you go back to the dashboard, and if you click on community, there's going to be a spot here that says star parties. And this is where you can see the upcoming star parties like you saw on the dashboard. But here we have our on-demand star parties. And these include all of our old star parties, some celestial event star parties, the ones that are led by community members. But here there are educator workshops. This is where the gold is at. When you click on this is where you can see the upcoming star parties that are educator workshops, like the one that you're in right now. Here's the PD professional development star parties on the eclipses. That's going to be happening on the 27th. But continually scrolling down, these are all of our past on-demand past star parties. And so if I continue scrolling down, you'll even start to see that there's some that are teaching high school astronomy with the online telescope, or online telescope for elementary school teachers. And so we have had Slooh hosts coming on that are educators that have been using Slooh for years, and they give off their strategies on how to use quests in the classroom. So I definitely encourage checking them out when you have some time. So you all have the ability to monitor student progress by using your classroom's workspace. Now, there is a workspace button here. And when you click on that, this shows all of the workspaces that you're in and any public workspaces that you're in as well. Now, workspaces are places to foster collaboration and competition, similar to that in the scientific community. Now, creating a workspace is as easy as clicking on this Create Workspace link and answering a few questions. Now, I can't show you any particular education workspace for privacy reasons, but I can show you the educator's workspace for all educators that use Slooh. This is a great spot for educators to learn about various things that are happening on the Slooh site that are relevant, that are going to make it easy for you to decide which quests to go on and which activities to do within your classroom. So I recently posted a guide for how to capture the moon when the terminator or the day-night line is near all 6 of the Apollo landing sites. This is a nice post that you can use to plan out going through the Apollo quest. And there are other things too, like information about the planetary oppositions, information about the professional development series that I mentioned a few times already as well. Now, this is my my demo workspace. And I do have one demo student in my demo workspace. And I can see that when you go into workspaces, you're going to first be on this assignments tab. But if you click on discussions tab, this is where your students will first be put. And you'll see that this is a way for your students to put on a discussion. They can add images from the telescopes here. Students can reply to these discussions and foster a lot of collaboration and engagement. Every time students are using these workspaces, they're gaining gravity points. So it's important to incentivize this engagement. But as educators, under this assignments, this is how you can assign quests to your students. And quests that are already assigned, you can get information about them as well. Like I can see that one student has completed the Hunter quest that I assigned. One student is working on the R Dynamic Star quest that I assigned, but nobody started these first 2 quests that I've assigned yet. So it gives you a glimpse of your assignments. By clicking on the Add Assignment button, this is how you actually get how you actually assign the quest to your students themselves. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do. So you can either assign individual quests to your students this way. This is all of the quests in alphabetical order, but you can also filter these by the learning progressions too. So if you wanted to follow the recommended path that is given for the learning progression, then you can click here and assign all the elementary learning school learning progressions. But if you took one of the alternative routes through the learning progression, then you can assign these quests one by one and assign your preferred path through that learning progression. If you wanted to peek at the Airtable again, this See Curriculum Alignment button brings you right to the Airtable. And so in an interesting way, I actually think that going through accessing the Airtable through the Assignments tab is probably the easiest way to get to the Airtable. So there's that. So that's pretty neat. When you click on the Students tab, you can see all of the students that are in your workspace, and then like kind of a peer down on how many quests they completed, how many quests they have in progress, when's the last time they logged on. But clicking on the student's name, you can get a little more information about how the student's working in the particular quest. And you can also download the student's quest report right here from this page as well. So typically, so what is a quest report? When you or your students are on the quest overview page, they're going to see a little button that says quest report. And this is basically a summary of everything that the student has done in the quest that you can use for grading. It includes all of the answers that they've selected, the attempts for those answers. It includes their poster, what missions they went on. And so this is really what you would use to grade what they've done. And so you can ask them to submit them to you after they've completed the quest, or you can use the workspaces to download them individually. All right. So I have 5 more minutes. If there are any questions that you have, please feel free to put them into the webinar chat. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you one of my favorite quests that I've done in the years that I've been here at Slooh, and it's the In the Footsteps of Apollo Astronauts quest. This quest is all about the NASA's Project Apollo. It goes through all of the Apollo missions, even starts at Apollo 1 and its tragic beginnings, and goes through all the way through Apollo 17. We do kind of skip Apollo 13 because there's a movie about it, but this is a beautiful quest to go through and learn about all of the different things the Apollo missions did. Now, I would say that this quest is really fun because you have to plan out how you want your poster to look in advance. So your poster at the end is going to include all of the lunar sites, and students need to capture them when this day-night line is near the landing site. And they'll learn that this causes the shadows to be long, crater shadows to be very long, and other feature shadows on the moon itself, which makes it a little easier to point out where the astronauts landed. So I've calculated the exact percentage of full each of these landing sites need to be throughout the lunar cycle. Now, the Terminator sweeps across the moon once to bring daylight and the second time to bring nighttime. So every Apollo landing has a couple of different phases. Now, some of those phases where the Terminators near the landing sites cross over multiple lunar phases, like waning gibbous, last quarter, waning crescent. But by using these percentages, you can then use you can schedule missions by going on them. So what I've done is I've given the dates for each of these rows on that table. So for example, if your student wanted to schedule a mission to capture Apollo 11 in a waxing crescent phase, which is going to be between 34 and 44% of full, they need to schedule a mission on September 21st. So if I go over here and I click on waxing crescent, this is going to take them to the waxing crescent's guide page. And if I click on September 21st, I'll be able to scroll down a little bit and I'll be able to see, okay, here we go. Here's the moon. Here's the moon phase. You see it's 40% of full. So if I go back to the quest, that's definitely between 34% and 44%. So this is the perfect mission that we need to go on to find where the Apollo 11 astronauts landed. So again, this table, the quote unquote cheat sheet table for this lunar cycle, you can find this in the educator's workspace. So definitely check that out. And so with this, you can then plan out all 6 of the Apollo landing sites and kind of give yourself a schedule for when it's time to come on and actually schedule these missions. And when your students are going through the quest itself, you'll find that this quest is kind of a reading. I like to think of this quest as a reading quest because it really goes through the mission from start to finish, what the astronauts were doing, why they were doing it. And it's kind of a story for them to read. There's even some story beats in it as well. But towards the end, they need to put in their Apollo 11 mission, put in the date that they captured, what the phase percentage was, and actually find where the Apollo astronauts landed on the moon. We have these treasure maps that help students start on a particular spot on the moon and basically crater hop and find exactly where the Apollo astronauts landed. Then by using this kind of video, they can then complete this activity to place a lunar module image exactly where the Apollo 11 astronauts landed. Then once they've done this for all 6 of the Apollo missions, they can build their culminating infographic, which includes all 6 of the images, all 6 of the landing sites, information about all of their missions. And there's even a spot for their answer to a question of which one of these missions was your favorite? What interesting things did you learn about any one of these missions and for it to be your favorite? And again, the answer to that question is something that students can add right to their poster. There's a favorite mission spot down here below. They can change the font color, change the font size, get it in a way where it will fit within this particular fit within this box. But if they actually like their text box being this big, then, well, they're gonna for this one they're gonna have to actually make it fit within the inside. So there we go. So that's pretty cool. I love this quest so much because by planning out all 6 of the missions, you can do things like have the day side be on the right for the left column and the day side be on the left for the right column, or swap them up. So I hope that this is a fun quest that you can do this week. So as you can see, quests are authentic, remote, observational astronomy activities using Slooh's online telescope arsenal of 10 robotically controlled telescopes at premier observatory sites worldwide. They teach students how to explore space in a self-directed manner while completing standards-aligned learning activities that challenge them. A remarkable aspect of astronomy is that it touches on many subjects and topics. Astronomy truly is a gateway science that uses the phenomenon captured in telescopes to inspire and encourage students to think scientifically. Therefore, Slooh is more than just an astronomy platform. It's a STEAM platform that encourages and inspires the learning of practical skills in an exciting and engaging way that prepares students for their future careers. With that, I cannot believe that this is all that we have time for today. If you have any additional questions, please put them into the chat. But I do want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Gretchen Beckert in the background here. She is managing the streams for us for the show and letting me know when there is a question in the Q&A. So thank you so much for that. Your continued assistance makes these flow really easily in my mind. So thank you. And I don't think there's any questions. So I want to thank everybody who is still here for your attention, those that are here packed in the webinar, and those watching in our event page. I hope that you have a blast exploring space with your students. Until next time, keep reaching past the stars to the universes beyond.